This was a very enjoyable couple days. I think that the jury worked hard to come to a certain consensus about what we thought was challenging the notion of contemporary architecture. And in general, I think we really appreciated the diversity of work. There were a lot of projects that were in urban sites. There were projects that were about historic adaptive reuse. And there were, of course, projects that were smaller, more intimately scaled, but exceptionally executed.
This was a really fun process. I've been on a couple of juries before. It required a lot of work up front in reviewing. I believe there were 167 submissions beforehand. And it's really important, and I feel a responsibility of the jury to sort of look at all these things. You're not just looking at pretty pictures, we're really trying to understand each of the projects.
The biggest challenge had to do with how diverse they all were. We constantly faced a problem of categories being not sufficient to characterize the assemblage of projects that we were judging. There was a lot of shifting of criteria, judging one project, shifting to the next project, having to recalibrate and develop the set of criteria that were most appropriate to that project.
The projects that we spoke most about, or that had a real in-depth discussion, tended to not be afraid to show where they were situated in the city or in the suburbs.
One of the things I was struck with is how many of the entries had a sustainable component. Really, I think most of the projects that we saw today had a pretty strong sustainable strategy.
One of the things I did think that I was missing a little bit was the projects that covered the healthcare. So that was something that I would have loved to have seen more of.
I think the most interesting projects that we had discussion on are those that fell on the cusp. And why did they fall on the cusp? And what was it about a particular picture or image? What ultimately rises to the top is the level of detail and good detailing and good execution of the detailing.
I practice primarily in residential architecture, and the residential entries that were especially impressive were the ones that engaged the landscape and their environment and their surroundings.
The effort that the students put in, especially the third and fourth year, the advanced undergraduate students, the quality of the work was really outstanding. The degree of difficulty of the projects were truly daunting, but it didn't slow down the students. They really stepped it up.
One of the things that we felt was that the middle range projects stood out more. There were a lot of really strong urban design projects in the third and fourth year categories, and the fifth year projects were interesting as more pieces of architecture, less about urban design.
We really enjoyed the variety of entries that we received, and would like to commend some of the educators in developing some really interesting problem statements for the students and guiding them through very thorough explorations.
I think it speaks very strongly of the character and quality of the landscape of Maryland. It's such a distinctive piece of the planet. And it's not just the physical place, it's the culture and history of the people. And these things are being kept alive through not just architecture, but the way people live their lives and the landscapes within which they do that.